Do you think you have to be debt free to increase your credit score? Well, in this video, I'm going to talk about how you can increase your credit score while having debt. Let's get into it. Now, let me know in the comments, do you feel like you cannot increase your credit score while having debt? For a lot of years, I had debt, but my credit score was always good. I had never been denied for a credit card except for probably like 2019 or 2020 was the first time, but that's only because I was applying for a lot of credit cards at once. But I ended up doing a credit card reconsideration for the Chase ISG and I ended up getting it. So overall, since we've been talking a lot about increasing our credit score fast, I thought it would be a great idea to talk about how, if you do have credit card debt, that you can still increase your credit score while having credit card debt. First, we have to understand what impacts our credit score. And our credit score is made up of 5 components. So we have our payment history, our credit card utilization, our length of credit, our new credit, and our credit mix. And so I think that it's very important, one, that we check our credit report because, one, we want to understand where we are standing right now and what's on our credit report. Is everything right on our credit report? Do we need to do any disputes? How many credit inquiries do we have? We really just want to know where our starting point is. And so you can always go on to the annualcreditreport.com to pull your credit. And I even go straight to Experian. That's where I like to go and pull my credit score. And I think they have a lot of great information. So I usually go to Experian. But you can go to Experian, TransUnion, or Equifax. Now, in my opinion, if you want to increase your credit score fast, you really want to tackle your credit utilization. It states if you want to have a good credit score that you want to have your credit utilization 30% or less. But I think it's important, the less the better. And per Experian, if we want to be high achievers, then a 7% credit utilization is better. Now, I think that the main way to tackle our credit utilization is by understanding when our creditor is going to be reporting to the credit bureau. Because on the one hand, you can have a max off credit card, but if you pay it off at the appropriate time before it reports to the credit bureau, then you're okay. And so, one, we want to know when is our due date. That's the number one. So we can make the minimum payment or pay it down to 30% or 7% by the due date. And then let it report to the credit bureau. And then once it reports to the credit bureau, then you can, do it all over again. But the most important piece of it, in my opinion, is the credit utilization. The next part is making payments strategically. We want to just make sure that we are making our payments on time and we are never missing any of our payments, but most importantly, that we are not letting it report to the credit bureau to where we will have delinquencies, because delinquencies are bad. But if you make a late payment is not necessarily bad, but you'll have to end up paying the 45 or whatever it is. But if you let that late payment report to the credit bureau, that's when it's bad. When we are considering paying off debt, use the snowball method where you pay the smallest debts down first. But you can also use the debt avalanche, especially if you have really high interest rates, because those interest rates are really high right now. So we want to make sure that we're getting the most out of our payments. And so it might be best to use the avalanche method. You can use the snowball as well. You really just have to figure out what's best for you. Now, it's always best to make more than a minimum payment, but I think that it's best to create a budget so that, one, we know how much money we have coming in compared to going out. And then that way we'll know how much we have left over, so that either, one, we can do the snowball or the avalanche method, or even if we can't do that, can we just pay a little bit more than the minimum payment? Now, while I think that the credit utilization and payment history is very important, we also have our new credit and our length of credit. And length of credit is very important because on Experian, it states if we have over 9 years, that's going to be high achievers. So in this, it's stating that keep accounts open but avoid new debt. So don't close cards even if they're paid off, because it can shorten our credit history and it will raise our credit utilization. So if you have a lot of credit card debt and you close a card, then that's going to make your credit utilization go even higher because you have decreased your credit utilization. But then also closing accounts can decrease your credit history as well. Now, while I'm not opposed to closing credit cards, because this year I am going to be considering closing 2 credit cards, but I think ultimately we have to figure out what's best for ourselves and take a look at our credit report to see where we are standing in all of the situations so that we'll know, well, maybe right now it might not be best for me to close this credit card because 1, I have high utilization, or 2, it's going to decrease my credit history. Now, during this time, if our credit score is not where we want it to be, maybe this might not be a good time for us to apply for a lot of new credit cards because we want to avoid the unnecessary hard inquiries, because this is going to be 10% of our credit score. So let's say if your credit score is maybe under 650, maybe it might not be a good time to open up a credit card. New credit is 10% of our credit score. Like, really, every increase of credit or decrease of credit can really impact us in a good way or a bad way. So I would not want my credit score to decrease anymore if I was under a 680. And so maybe it might not be a good time to open up a new credit. You'll just have to see what kind of credit am I trying to open to where, like, do I need this right now? Because ultimately, if you're trying to get a house, a credit card, and things like that, if your credit score is probably under, I would say, a 650, depending on, what kind of credit card or what you're doing, you might end up having to get, a high interest rate, or maybe you will get approved for a low amount. And so, really, we want to get high credit and we want to get low interest rates. Consider adding positive credit activity. And I think the best way to do this is by doing a credit line increase. Now, it really is going to depend on where your credit score is and how you're looking on your credit utilization and your payment history. Because if that's not looking good, then most banks or credit union is not going to want to do a credit line increase. So I think that's where we have to really take a look at our credit report to see, how is this going to work? But then additionally, take a look and see, if I ask for a credit line increase, is it going to be a hard inquiry? Now, let's say if you're trying to increase your credit score and you have a friend or a family member that has good payment history, good credit utilization, and overall a good profile and a high credit score, then possibly see if they can add you on one of their credit cards as an authorized user. And then that way you can piggyback off of their credit, and that can help to increase your credit score as well. And so I think that that's really good. And even if they add you as an authorized user, it's not to say that they have to give you a credit card, because, really the main thing is helping it to increase your credit score. Let's say if you don't have a credit card, but you're trying to increase your credit, because overall we use our credit for several other things that's not related to credit cards. And so we still want to have a good score so that we can get the good interest rates and we can get approved. Let's say you're trying to get an apartment, and if you have a low credit score, then you won't be approved. Or you're trying to get a car or a house, or even like your insurance. And some jobs are even checking your credit. So even if you don't have a credit card, let's say you can use Experian Boost, or Navy Federal has Bloom, and you'll have to check out Nail, because I saw this on Nail's channel where you can use Experian Boost or Bloom to add bills like utility, streaming, so that you can get credit history for the good payment history and things like that. And so I think that that's great, because not everybody wants a credit card, but a lot of other things use your credit, like the apartment and a house and a car, especially if you're not buying it outright. So we still want to have a good credit score. Now, I think this is a cheat code. So let's say if you have debt and you're trying to pay it off, to me, if you do a balance transfer, this is going to be a really good way to create a plan and to save money off of, the high interest rates. And doing a balance transfer, you can get anywhere between 15 to 18 up to even 21 months. And so I think that that is amazing. Now, the whole thing is you want to make sure to create a plan, because we don't want once the 18 or 21 months to come and we haven't paid off the debt, and then we're going to end up having more debt. You can take a look at some credit cards like the Discover It and the Wells Fargo Reflect. And I think overall balance transfers are good, because that's how I ended up paying off my credit card debt, by doing a balance transfer. Do you have credit card debt and you're trying to increase your credit score? Let me know in the comments, which of these tips are you going to be using? Now, overall, I'm not saying that it's good to have credit card debt, but if you do have credit card debt, there is a way that you can still increase your credit score while you're trying to pay off the debt. Because if we're trying to get credit cards and things like that, I think that it's important for us to pay the credit cards off, especially if we're trying to get cash back, points for travel, and things like that. If we are, getting the points, but then having debt, then really we're just breaking even. So I think that it's important for us to pay the debt off, but we know things happen. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? I hope that this video was helpful. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend, and turn your notification bell on so you'll be notified when new content drops. I thank you so much for watching. Until next time, check out my 2025 digital budget planner. I posted it on my Etsy shop. You can go into the description and click on the link. It's not a game.